partners Justin Nelson, Stephen Shackelford, and Davita Brooke. Tom and Stephen will share a few brief opening remarks regarding the lawsuit that was filed today against Fox News. We will then have a Q&A portion where further questions about the suit can be directed to Tom and Stephen. I'll walk through the logistics of that Q&A portion when we get to it. For now, I'll turn it over to Tom.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Clare, and I'm a partner at the law firm of Clare Locke, LLP. It is my privilege this morning to announce the next step in Dominion's efforts to hold accountable those who created and spread the lie that Dominion rigged the 2020 election. Earlier this morning, Dominion filed a 139-page defamation complaint against Fox News Network, LLC, in Delaware Superior Court in the county of Newcastle, Delaware. As Michael just mentioned, this is our fourth lawsuit following earlier lawsuits filed in federal court in DC against Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, MyPillow, and its chief executive officer, Mike Lindell. Those lawsuits are continuing to move forward in federal court in DC. Some of you may have seen that earlier this week, Sidney Powell filed a motion to dismiss Dominion's complaint against her, and in that motion argued that no reasonable person would believe that her statements about Dominion were statements of fact. That argument is ridiculous on so many levels, but it ties in with today's lawsuit against Fox in an important way. Fox put Sidney Powell on the air again and again to spread lies about Dominion. Lou Dobbs put her on the air again and again and made sure, both with his own statements and by putting her on the air over and over again, that Fox's global audience would take those lies seriously. On one of those appearances, Sidney Powell looked straight into that Fox News camera and told Lou Dobbs, quote, "You would have to be a damn fool and abjectly stupid not to see what happened here," close quote, referring to Dominion. Her statements on Fox are a far, far cry from the arguments her lawyers are now trying to make in court. Today's about Fox, and today's lawsuit against Fox News marks the beginning of the next phase in holding accountable those who are legally responsible for telling those lies about Dominion and causing such catastrophic damage to this company. In this new phase, which starts today, we'll be pursuing claims against the media outlets who intentionally, knowingly, and recklessly told lies about Dominion and who did so to their global broadcast, digital, and social media audiences. Fox knew these were lies, but they made a deliberate decision to spread them to their enormous audience and have their most highly rated on-air personalities state and endorse those lies in their own voice again and again. I'm now going to turn it over to Stephen Shackelford from the Sussman Godfrey firm, who will walk you through those claims in more detail.
Thank you, Tom. Stephen Shackelford. I'm a partner at Sussman Godfrey. Fox endorsed, repeated, and broadcast a series of verifiably false lies about Dominion. And in doing this, they gave life to a manufactured storyline about election fraud, taking a small flame and helping turn it into a raging fire with devastating consequences for Dominion. They did this with reckless disregard for the truth. In fact, Fox knew these statements about Dominion were lies. And just so folks don't forget, these outlandish and far-fetched fictions that Fox put on its airwaves about Dominion included saying that Dominion committed election fraud by rigging the 2020 presidential election, that Dominion's software and algorithms manipulated vote counts, that Dominion is owned by or uses the software and algorithms of a company founded in Venezuela to rig elections for the dictator Hugo Chavez, and that Dominion paid kickbacks to government officials who used its machines in the 2020 presidential election. Fox published these false and defamatory statements not once, but repeatedly. They did it again and again, week after week after week. They did this by intentionally providing a platform for guests like Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani to appear on Fox programming, who Fox and its hosts knew were completely unreliable sources and would tell these lies on Fox's air. Fox also did this through statements made by and through Fox's own agents, including Maria Bartiromo, Lou Dobbs, Janine Pirro, Sean Hannity, and others, who endorsed, repeated, and amplified these lies. Fox did this by republishing the segments with these lies on their air and on Fox's websites and on Fox's social media accounts and on Fox's other digital platforms and subscription services after the live broadcast had aired. Fox spread disinformation about Dominion for months while deliberately ignoring Dominion's specific and repeated warnings that these smears were not true. Fox recklessly disregarded the truth. In fact, they knew these statements about Dominion were lies. Fox knew that the vote tallies from Dominion machines could be easily confirmed by independent audits and hand recounts of paper ballots, and indeed that's what happened. Fox knew there was no evidence whatsoever to support claims that Dominion had ties to Venezuela or had paid kickbacks. Fox knew that the lies they were spreading were being rebutted by an increasingly long list of bipartisan election officials, election security experts, then Attorney General Bill Barr, then United States Director of Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency Chris Krebs, and others, not to mention some within Fox itself. Fox knew these were lies because Dominion over and over sent Fox the proof, the independent verification debunking these lies. As you read the complaint, it lays out this whole chronology, and it's incredible. Once Fox starts endorsing and repeating and broadcasting these lies, you see how the evidence disproving and debunking these lies keeps coming in day after day. But at the same time, Fox ignores all this evidence, recklessly disregards the truth so it can amplify the lies about Dominion day after day. Fox published these false and defamatory statements to make a profit at Dominion's expense and at the expense of the truth. Fox was facing competition from other conservative media outlets for viewers, including viewers unhappy with Fox's initial coverage of the 2020 presidential election. So Fox knowingly lied about Dominion in order to keep, increase, and win back viewers. The viral disinformation campaign by Fox reached over 1 billion people worldwide, and it caused significant and irreparable damage to Dominion and its employees. Dominion's employees have been stalked, harassed, and sent death threats, forcing Dominion to make significant expenditures to protect their lives. Dominion has lost profits of over $600 million over the next 8 years. And in addition, this campaign, Fox's participation in it, has irreparably damaged Dominion and destroyed the enterprise value of a business that was potentially worth more than $1 billion. Dominion is entitled to damages, including presumed economic damages, as a consequence of Fox's conduct. These presumed economic damages include, but are not limited to, the economic harm caused by Fox that has prevented Dominion from becoming a multi-billion-dollar company. And Dominion is entitled to punitive damages because Fox's defamatory statements were accompanied with malice and a conscious desire to cause injury. Fox made these statements purposefully and heedlessly with a reckless and willful indifference to Dominion's rights. Fox took a small flame and turned it into a raging fire. As the dominant media company among those viewers dissatisfied with the election results, Fox gave these dangerous fictions a prominence they otherwise would never have achieved. With Fox's global platform, an audience of over 1 billion, and with the inevitable and extensive republication and dissemination of these falsehoods through social media, these lies turned Dominion into a household name and deeply damaged its once thriving business. The truth matters. Lies have consequences. Dominion brings this lawsuit to set the record straight, to vindicate its rights, and to recover damages for the devastating economic harm Fox has done to its business. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to Michael.
Terrific. Thanks. We'll now open up to questions. If you'd like to ask a question, please click the raise hand button located at the bottom of your screen, centered between the mute and leave buttons. I'll call on you when it's your turn, and then we will unmute you so that you can ask your question for the group. We'll then mute you again while Tom or Stephen begins to answer. This keeps background noise to a minimum. And once they begin to answer, please press the lower hand button located where the raise hand button previously resided. If you have a follow-up question, please raise your hand again, and we'll prioritize getting back to you. We'll do our best to get to everybody. If we run out of time, you can always reach us at dominion@hamiltonps.com. Look forward to your questions. The floor is open. Sorry, we apologize. We have a huge number of folks on the line today, so I'm having trouble finding the raised hands. Great. Paul, could you lead us off?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good morning, gentlemen. You have mentioned, and I believe named in the complaint, various Fox personalities like Maria Bartiromo, Lou Dobbs, Sean Hannity, yet they are not named as plaintiffs in the lawsuit. It's only Fox News. Can you tell us why you didn't name them specifically as defendants in this?
Thank you. So our focus right now is on Fox as a media company. We have not ruled out any parties, including the individual agents of Fox News that we reference in the lawsuit.
Great. Jacqueline Thompson.
Hi, thanks for having us. Stephen, I was curious as to how you and Tom ended up working together on this lawsuit. How did your firm get involved in this?
I'll take that, Tom. We've been speaking with the folks at Dominion for quite some time about this potential. The volume of disinformation about Dominion out there is unprecedented. So given that fact and the geographical reach of the attacks Dominion's facing, expanding the legal team was inevitable. Tom and his firm are exceptionally talented, and we're very happy to be partnering with them on this. And when it came time to file this lawsuit, it made sense for us to join the team and work hand in hand with Tom and his firm.
Stephen.
Hi. Were there any discussions with Fox News before you decided to file this suit, and any discussions about a settlement, or can you characterize any of the any meetings that might have led up to your decision to file this?
Tom, I think the answer to that is no, but.
Yeah, no, I don't think it would be appropriate for us to comment on communications with Fox. What I can say is this lawsuit isn't coming as a surprise to them. We sent them repeatedly warnings, some of which are described in the complaint, about the false and defamatory statements that were made on the platform, and gave them an opportunity to do the right thing. And they haven't done that. And so I don't think today's lawsuit would be a surprise to them. But beyond that, we don't have anything more to say.
The only other thing we do have to say, I think, is like Tom's firm, Sussman Godfrey, we're trial lawyers. We came onto these cases to try cases. So we're looking forward to getting these facts in front of juries.
David Folkenflik.
Thanks for the opportunity. You'd mentioned two quick things that, Tom, you'd said that there was the opportunity for them to do the right thing. First, very briefly, what would the right thing have been in this circumstance from Dominion's standpoint?
Well, there's a lot of different ways that they could have started to remedy the harm. The one thing about defamation cases is that the harm, once it's out there, is in many ways irreparable, but there's always a way to start, and that is retractions and apologies. Now, a retraction and apology only goes so far, because it can never compensate Dominion for the damage that's been done to its business. But it is the minimum that would need to happen to at least try to do the right thing. And I'm not even talking about legally. I'm just talking about from a journalistic standpoint, from a moral standpoint, When you make an error, when you tell a lie, the right thing to do is to pull it back and apologize for doing that. And that wasn't done here, despite many opportunities. And even if it had been done, that would in no way have come close to fixing the damage that was done to Dominion by Fox's role in all of this.
Apologies, briefly, I believe that you said that you wanted to hold accountable the media organizations in response to a question from Paul Farhi about why certain individuals weren't cited as defendants in the case. Are you intending to bring suits against other sort of like-minded news organizations that had similar coverage as well, that you've not done so far?
So we continue to take an evidence-based look at all the different participants in this campaign of lies against Dominion. I don't think this is going to be the last lawsuit filed, but all we can say at this point is we are doing our due diligence and taking a look at the evidence before we file further cases.
Stephen, did you have another question? And could you say your full name and media outlet when you ask the question, please?
Oh yeah, Steve Battaglio from the Los Angeles Times. I did not have another question at this time.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions at this time? Elahi, could you say in your outlet, the Washington Post?
Yeah, sure. Elahi Azadi, Washington Post. Just a small question. In the suit, it mentions that Dominion has been forced to make an expenditure of money to ready the defamation and to protect the lives of its employees. Can you describe a little bit in further detail about the expenditure of money and what Dominion has had to do to protect the lives of its employees?
So I can't. Sorry, there's an echo. I can't get into detail about the various security measures, but a big chunk of that is different security measures that have been necessary given the threats that so many of Dominion's employees, going from software engineers all the way up to the CEO, have been subject to. And then besides that, Dominion is having to try their best to get the word out that these are all lies, they're all false. It is an enormous uphill battle, really an impossible battle when you're going up against someone with the reach of Fox. And with but Dominion has been doing their best, spending money on those efforts as well.
Paul, did you have a follow-up question?
Yes, thanks. I appreciate your answer, Stephen, but I didn't really think it addressed what I was asking. Why didn't you name specifically the personalities? You said we're going to sue Fox, but the lies that you're claiming were conveyed by, Lou Dobbs and Maria Bartiromo. Why weren't they named as defendants?
I'm sorry, Paul. Could you identify your media organization?
I'm sorry, Paul Farhi. I'm with the Washington Post.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. We haven't ruled out suing those individual agents. Fox, ultimately, though, the buck stops with Fox. It was Fox is the common denominator. Fox knowingly put these lies on its air over and over again, knowingly rebroadcast these lies, endorsed the lies, amplified the lies. So we may well end up suing some of the individuals. That is something we are still looking at. But we didn't do it now because our focus now is on Fox as the ultimate party with responsibility for what happened on Fox's airwaves, on Fox's social media, on Fox's Fox Nation Network, all those places. That is a Fox problem. That is Fox bears responsibility for that as an organization.
David, did you have a follow-up question?
I did. It's Dave Folkenflik again from NPR. Thanks, guys. For those of us, first off, for those of us in the broadcast world, I know you get into it to some degree in the complaint, but if you could just articulate, encapsulate the kinds of economic damages that have been done, not possible, but actual damages done to Dominion, so that our listeners and audiences would understand that.
So the specific damages, and they're in the complaint, the lost profits at this point, based on the most updated information, that's a $600 million number over the coming 8 years. As you probably know, election technology is a they have long contracts. So when you end up losing a contract and losing it for reasons like what Fox has done to Dominion here, that has long-term consequences on what are sometimes $100 million plus contracts. So that is those projected lost profits are a big part of it, and then the enterprise value. The enterprise value of the company was potentially going to be worth upwards of $1 billion based on trajectories and comparable EBITDA, comparable value of comparable companies. And once this campaign took hold, the company's enterprise value has plummeted. You couldn't find a buyer for this company today. Those are the two main components of the specific damages, if that answers your question.
Sure, and I do appreciate that. What did you make of the appearances we saw on Fox and mimicked in some ways on Newsmax of, shall we say, remedial segments in which they had experts show up, essentially contradicting some of the segments that you guys are alluding to, or in the case of Newsmax, news anchors and hosts repudiating some of what they had seen, we had seen on their own airwaves.
So the only segment that Fox ever aired was a segment about Dominion's competitor, Smartmatic. To this day, Fox has not issued any sort of retraction about all the lies Fox told for weeks and months about Dominion. But also, to be clear, as Tom said earlier, even putting up a retraction can't undo the massive damage that Fox's weeks and months of spewing these lies has done. So while that would be a start, it hasn't happened yet, and it would only be a start. And Fox is responsible for the massive economic damage that they caused to Dominion as well.
Grace?
Oh, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for doing this. This is Grace Panetta with Insider. I saw the complaint mentioned some of the damage that all the lies and misinformation, disinformation have done to Dominion's contracts with certain states and localities, particularly with state lawmakers saying that they want to discontinue their services with Dominion or decline to have contracts to use Dominion machines. And I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to how you hope this lawsuit against Fox and the previous ones will, sort of help stop the amount of misinformation that's also being parroted by people in elected office who have control over these contracts.
So thanks for that. Part of this lawsuit is obviously trying to get the truth out there as widely as possible. But as I said before, it's an uphill battle when you're going up against a juggernaut like Fox with their reach. Dominion's contracts and prospects have come under increased pressure in a number of significant markets. For instance, the state of Louisiana recently withdrew its RFP in order to what they said, undo the damage to voter confidence done by those who willfully spread misinformation and disinformation. And a number of other jurisdictions are raising questions and getting a lot of pressure to drop Dominion or not to consider Dominion for future work. We obviously hope that filing this lawsuit and proving our case can help with that. But it, again, is an enormous uphill battle. And we're not going to be able to get all the way there. We know that. And that's why Fox is on the hook for for the massive economic damages they've done to Dominion.
Paul, did you have another follow-up question?
No, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, it looks like we're in. David, did you have another follow-up question?
I did. I understand that you guys are looking forward to discovery and that more information will emerge. But from the research you've done in preparation of this complaint and the allegations contained in there, can you characterize for us the role that you think Fox played in shaping public and perhaps conservative or pro-Trump opinion about the elections and the integrity of the system, and particularly your client?
Maybe I could just make a quick comment on that, and then Stephen can pipe in. I've been doing defamation lawsuits a long time. And in response to your specific question, the role that Fox played in doing those things is truly unprecedented in terms of the scope and the reach of those statements and getting those lies out there to such a broad audience, literally billions of people. Also, the intensity with which those lies were experienced, and the resonance that it had with people in the real world. And you can measure that by seeing the real world impact of those statements. And so the role is truly unprecedented when you look at the kind of the defamation lawsuits that are typically filed that involve a one-off statement and a much more limited audience. But I want to emphasize that while the scope and the reach of Fox's role in this is unprecedented, and that explains the magnitude of the damages that we're claiming and the magnitude of the damages that were done to Dominion, there's nothing unprecedented about a lawsuit like this. That we're not making new law here. We're not seeking to expand the law. We are applying the law, the well-established law of defamation, to Fox's role. And so it is a garden variety defamation suit for a truly egregious and unprecedented defamation in terms of the scale and scope.
The only thing I'd add is, Fox gave life to these lies. Fox took this small flame and they turned it into a raging fire. And if this case doesn't rise to the level of defamation by a broadcaster, then nothing does.
And lastly, guys, even among some journalistic leaders who have been sharply critical of Fox on this and on previous matters, there is concern that lawsuits like this will greatly narrow protections for the press for legitimately broad-ranging coverage, but also political debate, which is the whole point of the First Amendment, right? How do you guys respond to that concern and that those possible implications of what, were your lawsuit to be successful?
So what Fox did here was not reporting. It was not political debate. Fox endorsed and repeated and broadcast a series of verifiably false lies. They were broadcast these as facts, and they did it over and over again, and millions of people believed it. Dominion is a strong supporter of the free press and the First Amendment, but the First Amendment guarantees a free press, not a consequence-free press. The Constitution does not give publishers license to defame. So, as Tom said earlier, we're not making new law here. We are enforcing the existing law in one of the most extreme cases any of us have ever seen.
Thank you very much, guys.
All right. And with that, I think we've satisfied the questions that we've got, and really appreciate everyone joining us today. Thanks, and perhaps we'll see you again soon.